Hello and welcome to Rulebreaker. Today we're going to continue our coverage of Twilight Imperium 4th Edition's expansion Prophecy of Kings by taking a look at these heroes in the half shell, the Xxcha Kingdom. I sparked a little bit of controversy with my tier ranking video a few months ago by calling the Xxcha Kingdom one of the best factions in the game. I think they're one of the more interesting factions. They're heavily defensive based, and in the base game at least they were a juggernaut. I've seen them dominate games, and I think a lot of that is down to some of the fundamental stuff in the game, such as the types of objectives that were available. And something that has changed a lot in Prophecy of Kings is that is not necessarily the case anymore. There's a lot more emphasis on getting out there, doing stuff, getting in combat, exploring, that sort of stuff, and the Xxcha can't really just sit back and hope for technology and resource and influence objectives anymore. Now, saying that, one of the things that has changed in Prophecy of Kings is an update to the diplomacy strategy card, and that directly links to the Peace Accords ability for the Xxcha Kingdom, meaning that, well, now that this strategy card is stronger, really, to be honest, no matter which option you choose, it's probably more likely to be chosen, meaning that you've got more opportunities to control planets in adjacent systems with your Peace Accords ability. So that's gotten a bit of a buff straight off the bat. Something worth thinking about is that this strategy card is that bit better. So it's a little bit more likely that other players may take this one. But let's dive in and take a look at the new stuff that they've got in Prophecy of Kings. Alright, so let's dive in and take a look at the leaders and mech for the Xxcha Kingdom. They have an agent called Grakuto Rin. They have a commander, Elder Qanoj, a hero called Zakir, and a mech called Indomitus. He makes me think of other reptiles, Indomitus Rex from Jurassic World. Anyway, the agent has the text: action, exhaust this card to ready any planet. If that planet is in a system that is adjacent to a planet you control, you may remove 1 infantry from that planet and return it to its reinforcements. Okay, so this is an action. You can do this as your turn. If you do, you exhaust the card, and you can't do it again until the next round. There's lots of different possibilities with this one. This is a weird one. You can exhaust it to ready any planet, so that can be any planet you control, it can be any planet that an opponent controls. And when you ready that planet, essentially it goes from being exhausted to being ready again, and you can spend the influence or resources on that planet again. You can't ready a planet that's already readied, so it has to have been exhausted prior to that. So if it's a specific one you want to use, you're going to have to wait until it's exhausted before doing this ability. And then if it's in an adjacent system, you may remove an infantry from that planet and return it to its reinforcements. You can do this to your own infantry if you want. I'm not sure why you would want to do that, but most likely you're going to do that to send somebody else's infantry back to their reinforcements. This is some kind of deal making thing. Maybe the designers felt like this was too easy for people to manipulate, so there is at least a cost on the other person involved in the deal, in that they lose one of their infantry if you ready their planet for them. Naturally, you can use this aggressively. You can ready a planet that's got a single infantry on it, or a few infantry on it maybe, that someone else controls. Remove that infantry and then invade that system with a slightly better chance of winning the combat on the ground. So the second part of that is quite situational. I can't imagine it being a massively important part of it. The other part of it that is really good though: exhaust this card to ready any planet. So whatever your best planet is, if you spend the resources on it, you can exhaust your agent here and then flip the card back over and have access to the stuff on it again, and that's really good. And that can be any planet, that's the key thing. So it can be Mechs Rex. If you want to spend 6 influence a second time that round, you can do that. So that's pretty cool. So a bit of economy for the Teenage Mutants. And moving on to the Doom from Qanoj, their commander here. It has the unlock of control planets that have a combined total of at least 12 influence. Just a quick reminder that you start with 4 influence, so you basically need 8 more. It's this blue number on the planets here. Once you've gotten that 12, and that may or may not be easy, that's probably one of the ones that is a little bit more counter to what these guys like than other factions ones. They like to sit down and hold their own systems, but I guess you do want to expand early, and now you have an extra incentive to do that by getting 12 influence and then flipping over your commander to gain the ability. Each planet you exhaust to cast votes provides 1 additional vote. Game effects cannot prevent you from voting on an agenda. So this is 2 things. Your votes get an extra vote. So let's say you used Archon Ren here to vote on something. You would spend 3 influence for 3 votes, but you'd get +1 from your Elder Qanoj, making it 4, as an example. The other part of the commander is game effects cannot prevent you from voting on an agenda, and that's all game effects. So game effects mean pretty much anything, right? So that means rider action cards, which normally don't allow you to vote because you're making a prediction about the outcome. I believe you can play rider cards and still vote with this commander active as the Xxcha player. And don't forget, because it's a commander, it's also applicable during an alliance. An alliance promissory note that you've given out to another player will have access to your commander here. And as far as I know, that means the Necrovirus can also vote now if they are your ally, meaning that you've got a severely dangerous combination of factions right there who, if they work well together, could become total annihilators of the game. So just something to think about there. The implications of this game effects cannot prevent you from voting on an agenda. Throw up. I'm sure there's a lot of edge cases out there, and actually this is something I'd love to call out to the group. If you've found anything weird as a result of this Doom from the Qanoj, Elder Qanoj commander, let us know, because I'd love to hear more about it, because this is pretty fascinating to me. So super strange commander, one that really empowers them in the political arena. It seems like it really enhances their the feel of this faction in the game. So that's super interesting. And we'll move on to the hero next, who unlocks after you score 3 objectives. Once you've scored the 3rd one, you can flip it over and it becomes the Political Data Nexus. And this is another action, and it's a once per game, and it's you may discard 1 law from play. Look at the top 5 cards of the agenda deck. Choose 2 to reveal and resolve each as if you had cast 1 vote for an outcome of your choice. Discard the rest. Other players cannot resolve abilities during this action. Then purge this card. Okay, so there's a lot to digest in this one. Obviously, first of all, it's a once per game action. So when you've done the action, the card is going to be gone, and you can't do it again. So do it at an opportune time. You can discard 1 law from play. Now there are 2 types of agenda cards. There's laws and directives. You can't get rid of a directive, but you can get rid of a law. And then when you've done that, you look at the top 5 cards of the agenda deck. Choose 2 to reveal and resolve each as if you cast 1 vote for an outcome of your choice. Now the important thing here is that you're the only player who's going to have any say on these 2 agenda cards. No other players get to vote. You essentially choose the outcome for free, really. Other players can't resolve abilities during this action. Now there was a lot of confusion about this one when the expansion first came out, and people were asking a lot about action cards. It turns out action cards have abilities on them, so people can't do riders, for example. In this situation here, it's not a standard voting situation, and this text makes sure that nobody can pick riders for that. So essentially what's happening here is the Xxcha player gets rid of a law if they want. Then they look at 5 cards from the agenda deck. They pick 2 of those 5, choose the outcomes of them basically in any way they want that fit the rules of the card. And there are so many of those cards that I'm not even going to try to go into the examples, because they're also different. And then other players can't play action cards or do other effects to swing that. However, the Xxcha player can. So the Xxcha player can actually play riders themselves, because they've got this commander on the table. So if you've got the commander out and the hero out, you can play riders on your own guaranteed result agenda cards. So I know that's quite complicated. There can be, of course, a situation where you haven't yet unlocked your commander, but I would say just wait until you've got the commander unlocked before doing the hero ability. So there is a good race to get that influence for your commander unlock before doing this one. If you have good rider cards, it can be a great advantage. There's even victory point one and other kinds of really good ones, so it's something to stock up and do at a really opportune time. Give yourself a really big benefit. Now, of course, the thing I don't like about this is that you could draw 5 agendas that just don't suit you. It's entirely luck based in that regard. There's a big deck of agendas now, so this really is, it could be you get the perfect laws or directives that will suit your game, or you could get something that's really inconsequential. The good thing about it though is you do get to look at 5 and choose 2, so you've got some control over luck mitigation there. So really, really interesting hero, and I'd love to hear if anybody's seen this in action in a game and how it went down. I'm sure it caused all kinds of ructions and controversy somewhere along the way. So I'm really interested in getting into a game with this on the table. And last up is their Mech Indomitus, which has the usual 2-6 combat and sustained damage, but also has Space Cannon 8, so it's like a little PDS. Not as good on the dice, but with a chance to fire. And it also has the text, you may use this unit's space cannon against ships that are in adjacent systems, meaning that it's quite like the PDS-2 and also the flagship, the Nankara Sodu, which has got the same ability on it. So mini mobile PDSs, like kind of like a tiny version of the flagship, really, the Indomitus. So I really like that mech, and I think the Xxcha, now knowing that they have to kind of go out a little bit and not turtle down as much, with the added variety of objective cards, they now have the means to do that with this Indomitus card, who can kind of just blast around. So I'd say get a whole bunch of these, stick them on a carrier, stick them on your flagship with capacity 3, start carving a path for yourself to go around and do fundamentally non-Xxcha things, really, when you think about it. So that's the Xxcha, fairly different feeling Xxcha in some ways. The extended influence into the political arena is very strong here, but again, of course, that's really difficult to control, especially in a higher player count game. And this readying the planet is really a way to allow you to get more influence in for those votes, or to gather some resources a couple of times per round from some of your more prosperous planets. And of course, it wouldn't be the Xxcha without additional space cannons. So they're still doing a lot of things they like, but it just feels like it's got a different flavor to the way it was before. Now, has this boosted the Xxcha up and brought them into the kind of the top echelon of factions? I thought they were great in the base game. I think the nature of the way the game works now with Prophecy Kings, I think they may have stepped back a little bit. However, I do think that they are very viable. They can still turtle down, and they can now kind of get out there a bit more thanks to the mech unit. I kind of think they're a little hard to call, really. Now, I think it's going to take extensive play of the expansion before I can really judge the Xxcha Kingdom. So let me know how you've gotten on, if you've played as them or against them, in the comments, please. That'll be lovely. And we'll be back for the last video in the series very, very soon, so look out for that. Do subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Keep the channel growing, that'll be fantastic, and we will see you very, very soon. This is Rulebreaker, and goodbye.